I stayed silent the night she chose him. She didn't even say his name. She just said, "I need something different." And I realized I was no longer what she needed. If you've ever been replaced so quietly it felt like a whisper, if you've ever watched someone you loved turn into someone you no longer knew, this story is for you. Subscribe for more stories like this one, and tell me in the comments, would you take someone back if they left you for someone else? She didn't cry when she left. That's what stayed with me. Not the betrayal. Not the silence. Not even the way her closet emptied in just 1 hour. What stayed with me was the fact that she left without a single tear, like she'd already cried her last one weeks ago, with someone else. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, her keys resting gently in the bowl, her ring sitting next to them, and me, just sitting there. She looked at me like she wanted me to say something, to scream, to beg, to ask her why, but I didn't. I just looked at her, like I was memorizing a stranger's face, because by then, that's what she was. The woman I had spent years with, who once called me her home, who promised forever. She was standing in front of me, with bags packed, and no trace of guilt in her eyes, just exhaustion. Like loving me had become too hard. I didn't follow her, didn't text, didn't try to win her back, because some battles aren't worth fighting when the person you're fighting for has already chosen someone else. I didn't even know who he was. I never asked. I didn't want to know. It wouldn't change the fact that she left. The days after were quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The hollow kind. The kind where the silence follows you like a shadow. Where every object in your house feels like it belongs to a ghost. Where every reflection of yourself looks unfamiliar. I stopped sitting at the dinner table. I started sleeping on the couch. Her side of the bed was too loud in its emptiness. People told me I was strong for not reaching out. But strength had nothing to do with it. I wasn't strong. I was just broken in silence. That's the thing people never say about heartbreak. It doesn't always come with screaming or tears. Sometimes it just sits with you, quietly, like a weight you can't drop. Months passed. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Taking walks alone. Reading again. Drinking coffee slowly instead of rushing through it. There was no big healing moment. Just small pieces falling back into place. And still, she never called. Not once. And then, a year later, another quiet night. Another Sunday. And a knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. The street was still. The sky cloudy. When I opened the door, I thought I was seeing a dream. There she was. Hair slightly longer. Eyes heavier. And her body wrapped in a wedding dress. The kind I never saw. The kind she was supposed to wear for someone else. I just stared. Not angry. Not sad. Just confused. She didn't say hi. Didn't ask to come in. She just whispered, I couldn't go through with it. She stepped inside slowly, like she didn't know if she was allowed to. She stood in the middle of the living room, the same place where she once kissed me goodnight 1,000 times. Now she stood there trembling. She looked down at the dress. It doesn't feel right, she said. I put it on, looked in the mirror, and all I could think about was, you. I didn't say anything. She kept going. I thought I was over it, over you. I convinced myself that you were just part of my past, that this new life, this man, was the future I needed. Her voice cracked, but I couldn't take the final step. I stood there, waiting for the music to start, and all I felt was empty. I still hadn't moved, still hadn't spoken. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her how many nights I lay awake, wondering what I did wrong. How many times I told myself she'd never come back, that I was just something she grew out of. But I didn't say any of it, because I didn't need to. She already knew. She looked at me again, her eyes full now. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. I just needed you to know. You were never the problem. I was just too blind to see what I had. She pulled the veil off her head slowly, folded it with shaky hands, and placed it gently on my table. I thought marrying him would make me forget you, but it didn't. It made me realize how much I ruined. She stepped closer, holding the edge of the dress like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I wore this for someone else, but all I could think about was the man who saw me when I didn't even see myself. I finally spoke, and all I said was, "You didn't just leave me, you buried us." She nodded. Tears fell freely now. She didn't try to stop them. "I know," she whispered. "I came here, not for a second chance, but because you were the only person I ever loved who loved me right. And I needed you to know, I remember." She stayed for a while. Not long, just enough to cry. Enough to look around and see what she walked away from. Then she stood up, folded the dress, and placed it on the chair like it was her final apology. She turned to me and said one last thing. "You became my ghost, but you were always real. And I'm sorry I left real for something temporary." And then she left, quietly, like the first time. But this time, it didn't break me. This time, I didn't sit on the floor in grief. I didn't hate myself. I just stood there, stronger, because I knew that love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means surviving, even when the person you loved the most chose someone else. She came back, but the man she left behind, he's not here anymore. He grew, he hurt, he healed. And when she returned wearing the dress I never saw, I saw her clearly for the first time. A reminder, not a home. Some people only realize what they lost when they're standing in front of it again. But by then, you've already become someone who doesn't need to be chosen. Because you finally chose yourself.